The other exemption is that at a minimum, you can only use, at a maximum, you can only use 20% compact fluorescent light bulbs in order to qualify as an Energy Star home. If you want to put 100% into your house, that's fine. But if you're scoring an 86, you put in 20%, you're still at 86 in HERS. You can't just throw in the other 80% and bring your score down. You need to show real savings and in more passive ways, through super insulation, through infiltration rates. But again, though this is a performance path, and you can use a wide variety of approaches to show that 15% savings, at a minimum, you do need to have these 4 areas covered. And again, your HERS rater will help you cover all of those things. Any questions? Great. I thought I was going on. Here we go. Along with, just for your own benefit, so that you know, I think I went backwards. We covered page 1. This is just the requirements. These are the notes. If you've noticed, there are 14 separate notes. Nothing's easy in this program. We just try to make things easier. So of the 14 separate notes, we'll cover most of them today. Some of them don't really apply. Some of them Michelle will actually be covering on her own. But I want to give you some detailed examples of probably the most critical areas where we find failures in compliance, where we find the greatest challenges coming from builders. And I'm just cutting and pasting all of these little points to the presentation going forward. Number 1, basically it's telling you that given a particular climate zone, you have to score a certain HERS index. So we're talking about an 85, any climate zone within that dark brown area. If you were to build in parts of New Hampshire or Maine or Vermont, you're looking at a different HERS score. As long as you're staying within that boundary, you should be fine. So I'm going to focus most of my comments today on getting to HERS 85. There are 6 specific areas that I'd like to cover to get to a HERS 85. And these are the major entries that you'll find in any energy modeling software. More so than what you'd find in ResCheck, but these are the key areas that a HERS rater, an energy analyst will look at. And these are the entries that RemRate, the software that we use to qualify and to rate the house, uses. And these are insulation, fenestration or windows, mechanical equipment, duct systems, whole house infiltration, and lighting and appliances. So, I leave any out? I'm looking at the HERS raters, they all seem to agree. Insulation, there are really 4 basic areas when you're dealing with insulation and trying to get beyond code. It's going to be the quantity of the insulation, the effectiveness, and the quality of that install. And for quantity, you deal with R values as well as framing factors. Everyone knows what an R value is. If you have a 2x4 wall, you put in a standard fiberglass bat, you're at R13. That cavity has a rating of R13. But if you look in total of the framing factors that go into building a house, a typical Energy Star or typical code-built house today is going to be spec'd at 16 inches on center. And actually, here we go. Most of us are familiar with standard tape measure. You might not have the Energy Star one, but ask Mary Lou, she'll get them for you. You have big red dots on your tape measure every 16 inches. That's for laying out a wall, 16 on center. But you also have some pretty big dots every 2 feet on center. The one question that most people don't get is, what's the little black diamond every 19 inches? Anyone know? Okay, you know, but I'm not asking you. Back there.
Yeah, it's just another space.
Right, 19 and 3/16. You keep adding 19 and 3/16, you're going to get to 8 feet pretty soon, and that's a standard dimension that is used in the industry. My point is, for framing factor, if you use 16 on center, and you're using conventional framing techniques, you're using a king jack stud cripple for windows, you're using headers that are grossly oversized, you're using headers in parts of the house that aren't required, that aren't carrying load. Gable end windows don't need headers, people put them in anyway. You're looking at about 20, almost 25% of that building shell is not going to be insulated. It's going to be wood, and wood has an R value of about 1 per inch. So in a 2x4 wall, your cavity is 13. You know, every 16 inches, you're going to have 3.5. So when you start looking at getting away from R values, which HERS raters very rarely use, they start looking at U values or UA values. A UA is the U value, which is the inverse or the reciprocal of the R value. Just another, that's a mathematical way of understanding the flow of energy. And you take a look at that area, that total wall area. You take 100 square foot of any given wall, and you figure out, well, 23% of that is stud, and what's the balance? You know, 77% of that is going to be insulation. You do the math. All of a sudden, you're coming out to not R13. What you're coming out to is probably somewhere in the vicinity of, thank you, somewhere in the vicinity of maybe R10 or less. Sorry. I'm fighting something. It's going around the family. I provided some examples here. I don't know how well you can see all of these, but let's take a look at some. And I had one other note I needed to dig out here. I need a bigger podium. There you go. These are some examples from different job sites I've been on over the last few years. When we're dealing with R value, we know fiberglass, 3.5 inches of it is going to give you an R13. You can increase a typical 2x4, thank you, tape change in 10 minutes, so we'll take a short break in 10 minutes. You can increase the typical 2x4 wall assembly, the R value, pretty easily just by moving to a high density batt if you want to stay with fiberglass. Why not go with R15? So in this instant down here, oh, boy, this is really killing me, Mary Lou. Where are we?